Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Model United Nations video training series. Where in this series, you're going to be learning from how to research to in an MUN to how to win the best delegate award from scratch to finish throughout the entire series. So stay tuned and follow me if you haven't already. My name is Kevin, and I've been teaching Model UN from the past more than 10 years. And today's video lecture is about how to research in an MUN or for an MUN. So let's go. Whenever you enter into any particular MUN, there are three things that you always get. That is your country, your committee, and your agenda. So therefore, when you start off your research, you always break down your research for these three things. That's your country, your committee, and your agenda. Now, how you go about doing this is like this. That your country specific research is always divided into two parts. That's your geopolitical research and your demographic research. Then your committee specific research is divided into three parts, which is the power that your committee holds, the mandate of that particular committee, and the focus that you have as a delegate in that particular committee. And last is your agenda specific research. Now, agenda specific research always has to do with what are the causes, what are the effects, and what are the solutions that you can provide or that have been used in the past but now needs to be changed. And then you evaluate the solutions to come together and collaboratively form your document that either gets passed or not, depending on what committee are you in. That being said, let's quickly learn the first type or first part of how to research, which is your country specific research. Now, in your country specific research, it always gets divided into two types. That is your geopolitical research and your demographic research. Geopolitical research has everything to do with where exactly is the country located and what is the politics with regard to that country and other nations because of its location. For example, let's say Nepal. Nepal is a landlocked country. So, what are its relations with countries around it? Does it have enemies? Does it not have enemies? Because that also determines whether it will be allowed to facilitate trade. What will be the taxation and duties that will be put to get products into this particular country? So, its allies and enemies get determined accordingly. So you'll get to understand what are the allies and enemies of that particular nation. Also, you get to understand based on the location of the country that how will trade be facilitated? Is it landlocked? Does it have water around it? Does it have lakes, rivers? Is the water body big enough for certain types of vessels to pass by? Is there a conflict happening because there are other countries claiming the same water bodies like in the South China Sea? Or with regard to trade and geography, I'll tell you a very beautiful example very quickly. Let's see the understanding of India and China. Now, India and China we share the border across Arunachal Pradesh from India. And are we friends or enemies? You'll say, a lot of us will say that no, we're enemies because there's always some kind of conflict and tension happening up there. But then also another side will tell me, but Kevin, you have more than 70% of trade happening from India with China. So do you understand why geopolitical research is so important to understand your dynamic and your foreign policy with other countries? Then the last is what you need to know about your nation in terms of geopolitical research is the economic and political structures of your country. To understand whether your country is economically, is it socialist, is it communist, is it capitalist, or sorry, and rather the political systems, whether and what is the governance of the country? Is it a democratic? Is it a republic? Is it oligarchy? Is it a theocracy? Is it a um, dictatorship? What exactly is it? Okay, all that becomes part of your geopolitical research. Now, once you have a very good idea of what is your relationship of your nation with others, now it's time to see back and understand how you have to behave in the MUN. And that will only come to you when you know your demographic research very well. That is, what are your people like? What is the population like? Is your country heavily populated or is it very scarcely populated? What are the different races that are prevalent in your country? Are your people white? Are they people black? Are they brown? Are they Hispanic? Are they Asian faced? What exactly are they? How exactly are they? And once you know that, then what is the culture like? Do they have a conservative mindset? Do they have an open mindset? What are the clothes that people wear around? Are they allowed to wear whatever they want to wear? Or do they have to wear clothes where they're covering their entire body and they can't even wear clothes above their knees? Right? What are the languages that are spoken? Is there a particular official language or set of recognized official languages? Or are there multiple languages that are spoken across the geography of your country? What are the soft powers? What is it that your country is known for without flexing any kind of arms and ammunition? In terms of whether it is food or whether it is clothing, whether it is monuments, whether it is dance forms, whether it's song and music, right? Whether it's cinema, all this becomes part of your soft powers. Finally, you have to understand also that what is the economy prevalent, and this is not with regard to the economic structure, but what is the economy prevalent? Is there development that has happened? Are there people suffering from poverty, or are the people super rich in the nation? Is everybody above poverty line? Is everybody happy? So all this becomes part of your demographic research. Now, once you've done your geopolitical and demographic research, I'm very sure that you will know your country and your nation in and out, as well as its relationship to other nations. So, then the second thing that you need to really know and you need to focus now on your research is your committee specific research. So, your committee specific research, how it works is that you need to understand where you're sitting and what exactly does your committee do. Simple. Because if you do not understand what exactly does your committee do and what powers does your committee have, you won't be able to make your delegation give its best as that delegate. For example, the United Nations Security Council has the power to deploy troops and arms uh, and armed forces into spaces where they can uh, bring in peace and harmony and security. Now, if you do not know this, that this is the power that the UNSC has, you would never want to explore it, right? That's why it's very important to know what's the power of your particular nation. Next comes the mandate. What is the focus of your nation? Does your what is the focus of your committee? Does your committee focus on the environment? Does it focus on human rights? Does it focus on development? Does it focus on welfare and education? What exactly is the focus of your uh, committee is very important to understand. And how also I'll tell you. Let's say you have an agenda that says relocation of 3,000 refugees into a particular nation and clearance of 50 acres of land for rehabilitation of these refugees. Now tell me, if you're in the UNHRC, what is your main focus? What's your mandate? That you need to have make sure that they are rehabilitated properly, these refugees. If you're in the United Nations Environment Program or EP, your focus will be on making sure that that 50 acres of land that is being claimed for these people is safeguarded. Whereas if you're in the, let's say, development program, your focus will now be not on whether the land is getting affected or the people are being rehabilitated. Your focus will be that we should make sure that the infrastructure is proper. Make sure that when they are rehabilitated here, the people are able to understand and learn the culture and become part of the nation that is they are going to be induced into. That is why it's so important to understand what is your focus and mandate of your committee. And last, you have what is your focus as a delegate. This plays a very important role in finally when you're getting closer to winning an award or you're getting closer to building your resolution. This is very important. How? Because your focus determines whether you will be the one blaming other nations, or are you finding solutions, or are you the one asking for help? Are you offering help? All that becomes a part of your committee specific research. And finally, you have your agenda specific research, which is the most important of the three, of course. Why? Because your agenda specific research helps you understand and helps you be a part of the MUN. This is what you're actually going to be actively expressing in the MUN room. So, how do you do your research that is agenda specific? You have four parts into it. First is the causes. For causes, always build a timeline of what events exactly happened. So first you say, okay, let's say you take the World War. So you say, there was an assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand. Then because of that, the invasion of Serbia and the whole idea happened, right? The whole thing went on, blah 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 blah, and the whole event took place. So build your timeline. So when you take one-to-one coaching with me, I help you understand how to build a perfect timeline for yourself and so on. And if you need me to help you with any MUNs, please feel free to always drop me an email and I can help you out. Continuing with our causes, second is how do you understand your causes once you build your timeline? Understand who played a role, who were those key players in this set of events that happened. So you can blame them or you can get blamed by them if you are one of them, or you can help them and so on. So you can have your action that is associated. Next, what caused the problem? Finally, what exactly caused this particular issue? When you have this entire timeline with you, trust me, it's very easy for you to go ahead and find the effect that it had on the people and solution. So this is the most important part of it. Next, we understand the effects. Effects are always of two types. One is the direct effect. Let's say there's a conflict between two nations. What is the direct effect? Usually it is loss of life, loss of infrastructure. You get to see there's deforestation that happens. Educational facilities are affected and so on. These are all basically the direct effect. If there's a flood, then again loss of life, loss of infrastructure. Even if it's global warming, it's usually these are very stereotypical ones. So when we work individually, we get to break down and I'll teach you how you work with each of these aspects as well. Next comes in your indirect effects. Now, indirect effects is basically collateral damage. Usually, where countries are not direct stakeholders in the problem, they become the ones who are a part of this indirect effect. That is usually inflation, you stunted development because they were in trade terms with that particular nation. So the development has stopped because that nation went into war and conflict. The stock market prices have changed. The prices of commodities outside has changed. Availability of material has changed. So all this becomes indirect effects. Okay. I'll give you a very simple example before we move forward for indirect effect as well. That is, let's say there's a war that is happening between two nations. Now, because of that war, let's say the prices of oil has changed. Because the prices of oil has changed, the transportation of goods from outside to inside to importation taxes and that price has fluctuated. Because of that, something as small as a pen that you can use, the price has changed. And you'll be like, whoa, I just bought this pen for X amount a few days back, isn't it? So that's the idea. And finally, once you understand the causes and the effects, you want to make solutions. Now, your solutions are always of two types: your short term solution and your long term solution. So, for short term solutions, it's always about what can you do instantaneously, quickly. And for long term solutions, is something that you can make sure that is sustainable for a very long time. I'll give you an example. For a short term solution, usually, let's say we have the island of Kiribati that is drowning. So, due to rise in sea level. So, a short term solution is asking for funds and building bunds and sea wave cutters around the shore of it so that the sea level does not drop, does not rise, and the island does not drown. But is that lucrative in the long run? No. So, what is our long term solution? It is to understand the reason why global warming is taking place and how to reduce the pace of the melting glaciers so that the island does not drown in the long run. That's the idea for the long term solution. So, whenever you're finding these short term and long term solutions, no, you always need to keep in mind these certain questions that are on your screen. That is this solution actually practically applicable? Can I go and I can actually implement it right now? Second is it collaborative? What we usually fail to do is that we come up with beautiful solutions, but it's only applicable to our nation mostly. That's not a best way of working around it when you're in the MUN. So You should see that your solution is collaborative. Make sure that other delegates also want to be a part of that solution and say, yes, this can be implemented in my nation as well. And finally, it is to evaluate whether your solution has made sense or not, whether it's a good solution or not a great solution. Okay. Once you have this entire idea, your research for MUN is done. All you have to now do is be able to access your material, your data, and make strong speeches. And for that, you general steps. First, you find out all your information using this entire structure that we just got. Then track your sources, because it's very important to know where you got your information from. Once you've tracked your sources, you evaluate these sources. Is it a good source? Is it not a good source? Then a lot of you will ask me, then Kevin, what are good sources of information? A good source of information is where it's probably a news channel or a news space where you know that there was a particular specific journalist who got this information for you, and it was prevalent when the event actually happened. So good set of news, a good set of sources are Reuters.com, Al Jazeera, BBC News, CNN, Times of India, so on and so forth. Why? Because these certain bodies were there since a very long time. Now, out of these also, understand based on your foreign policy if your country acknowledges these sources of information or not. So make sure that these sources of information of yours are very accurate. You can use Britannica also, you can use different journals also. That is, they're all good sources of information. Just make sure that you evaluate whether it's legitimate or not. Like Wikipedia is not a legitimate source of information because anybody can edit it, right? Google is not a source of information. It's a search engine. You can find information there, but you cannot tag that as a source. Similarly, once you've done this, you need to organize your data. And when you organize your entire data, now it's going to be accessible to you. So whenever you had those moments earlier that, oh man, I should have said something, but the conversation has passed by, you'll not have those moments anymore. And how do you do that is what I teach you when we take individual sessions for you to learn and understand how to be the amazing delegate in an MUN setup. And finally, is to map all your different sources of data together so that you can make a great speech and then you go into the MUN. That's all to learn how exactly you research for your MUN. For more information on how to go about doing this and to be a much better debater, you can drop me an email and we can set up a training session for you. Until then, do subscribe and stay tuned for a lot more videos on Model United Nations and keep munning. Let's go.